We're good? Good evening and welcome to the council meeting of March 23rd, 2026. This meeting is being live streamed on the town's YouTube channel and it's also being held live in chambers. I acknowledge that we are on Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral land of the Mi'kmaq, and honor all those who care for it, including African Nova Scotian communities. Call this meeting to order at 5 p.m. I know we do have full attendance of council. Are there any conflict of interest issues that we should be made aware of before we begin? There being none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. I do have one minor addition under my council report with my name beside it. I've added two supplementary documents which I have distributed around the carousel here, and those will be part of the package. So I would take a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Baker and Deputy Mayor Kroll as a seconder. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. We have two sets of minutes tonight. The first set is from February 23rd council meeting. Are there any changes to this set of minutes? There being none, we will file those as presented. And the next set is from the March 9th special council meeting. Are there any changes to those set of minutes? Oh, Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah,
Hold on one sec.
to the other,
The first one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll leave that for a second.
or it might be the second.
Second one is the March 9th special council meeting, and the February 23rd is our regular council meeting.
Okay, well, I don't know where, because I didn't write it down, but on page 3, where it's being explained that I had asked a question, the second sentence should read her instead of his.
Page 3.
Yeah, I think it might be the first set.
The second set.
Is it the
Second
second
set?
set? Sorry about
The
that.
special council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
One at the end of his second 9 years of it should be in her.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Okay, perfect. And the second set of minutes, any changes to those, the March 9th special council meeting?
That was it.
No change, that was the second one, okay. All right, perfect. We will get those changes recorded. So we'll move on tonight to recommendations. The first one is regarding partial tax exemption. And the recommendation is the council give second reading to bylaw 204 respecting partial tax exemption. Moved by Deputy Mayor Kroll and a seconder, Councillor Savage. Any discussion on that? We will open the vote. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Our next recommendation is the sundry tax write-off. So the recommendation is that council approve writing off outstanding sundry accounts receivable, including interest totaling $1,963.60 related to a customer account for Kevin Davison. Moved by Deputy Mayor and a seconder, Councillor Andrew. Any discussion on this? Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. And so with that write-off, then there is still the attempt to try and collect that through sort of small claims, which is probably costly, I don't know, but just wondering if they still do try and collect it.
I think they still try, as far as I know. You may want to speak.
We still do try, but we don't typically use small claims for such a small amount because the cost would exceed the amount.
Okay, thank
But
you.
there's still other opportunities to collect it, we would still.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. I will call for the vote. Voting is open and voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. Next recommendation is regarding the investment advisory services contract. The recommendation is the council approve a 7-month extension of the investment advisory services agreement with TD Wealth, extending the terms to October 31st, 2026. Moved by Councillor Savage and a seconder, Councillor Baker. Thank you, Councillor Baker. I had to think for a minute. Any discussion on this? Councillor Maxwell?
Thank you. I was just wondering how long TD has had our investment portfolio.
I would say 5, 6 years, maybe more.
It was
I would-
actually National
Bank,
before
right.
that.
20 years ago.
Yeah, so you're probably a good 18 to 20 years. Now, since Chris McCrae has had it. that
That's
would
what I'm
only-
thinking of, yeah.
That would only be since like 2017, 2018,
Okay.
that investment class.
Okay, we'll call for the vote. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Next recommendation is regarding regional sewer, and we'll invite Director Bell up to speak to this.
Push that down. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I won't read the entire report, but it isn't that long, I guess, to start with. I usually start with just the origin of our history with the regional. I think everybody here knows, but the town of Kentville is one of 4 partners in the Kings Regional Sewer System, and we have been since the late 70s, and that includes 2 other municipalities, the owner, the manager, the municipality of the County of Kings, as well as the village of Minas, where the regional sewer plant is located. Also, one other private industry, there used to be 2, but 1 now, PepsiCo Canada, situated in New Minas, that operates the Frito-Lay chip plant, is also a partner. So the 4 partners begin budget meetings typically early in the calendar year, and they propose an operating capital budget prepared and presented to the committee by the Kings County Finance and Operations staff. The RSC, as I've acronized it here, met on March 12th, most recently to present the latest operating capital budgets. After previous meetings held in January, that Councillor Maxwell and I attended, and several technical subcommittee meetings that were held in February and March to reach the one that they presented on March 12th, after we had some recommendations to reduce it down to where it sits today. So once an agreed upon budget is accepted by the committee, the partners in turn take the proposed budget back to their respective council, in our case, or commission for the village, or board for PepsiCo for their acceptance of the new budget. So we're doing that tonight. I think New Minas is doing theirs at their next commission meeting early in April. And I think when we were there that day, PepsiCo gave their representative authority to approve it there, so that PepsiCo has already approved the budget as proposed. In 26-27, there is an overall almost $218,000 increase, or about 8%, proposed over last year's operating budget, with the town of Kentville's increase set at $113,500 over last year's budget, for a total amount of $1,537,770. That's our portion. So the overall 26-27 regional sewer operating and capital budget is proposed at $2,942,700, with Kentville's assigned as a 52.2% user of the system. That's based on a combination of our use of the collection, pumping, and the treatment system in New Minas. And I've attached excerpts from their recently presented budget meeting to the end of the document for backup if you have any questions on that. So budget implication, council approved an internal sewer rate review in the second quarter of 25-6, as you're all aware, leading to an immediate rate increase in the third quarter to address the projected sanitary sewer deficit in our own town sanitary sewer service. So we reviewed, the review rather assumed an 8% year-over-year increase after discussions last fall with Kings County staff. And they proposed a larger increase than the 8, so they did get it down to that, which they had told us they would try to do. And have done so. I'm still cautiously optimistic because, they reduced what they thought the power costs would be, and that had been the biggest driver these last few years with the increased aeration. They have exceeded already, and they're a little behind, of course, with NS Power's struggles. They're a little behind on billing from NS Power for the treatment side in New Minas. So right now they're running upwards of a $75,000 deficit for this current year, the end of this month, and that could go up with future bills yet to come. So the regional operating capital budget aligns with the approved sanitary sewer budget for this line item in our own internal budget. But there have been, as I mentioned, historical instances of the regional sewer cost overruns and projected water usage that we make our revenue from was actually reduced this fall. So we didn't even quite meet what we had anticipated for the last 2 quarters of 25-26 for revenue. So we're a little under on our own. Coming up, there'll be another small rate increase for 26-7 that we've already approved internally here, but it does see a reduction in the sort of that slight shock of the base rate of our own sewer quarterly or monthly base charges to our consumers. But given the aging regional sewer system and ongoing major upgrades, additional rate reviews internally here in town, and potential increases are anticipated in the coming years. So can stop there. If there are any questions before we get to a recommendation.
Councillor Andrew.
I hope it's okay if I ask a question broadly about sewer that isn't necessarily to do with the numbers and approving budget.
Sure.
Are there any options that have been explored for commercial, industrial contributors that do some sort of pre-treatment? And I'm asking this in complete ignorance. It's just because I believe I believe the director has said before that that this type of system we use is ideally used for residential, and we're using that obviously for commercial, industrial as well. So,
Thank you, Councillor. You're right in the sense that residential waste is relatively easy to treat, and it's not that it can't be treated. Not that we can't treat industrial waste at an aerated lagoon, because there is front end treatment at the lagoon that's been there for decades. Actually, the lagoon was built. Original plant was built in the late ~70s, and then in the early ~90s, they upgraded the pond, added a 5th cell, and a fair bit of front end pre-treatment. That has been used for decades quite successfully. The operations the last few years has used that less, and I think that's caused some of a problem. It's reduced their maintenance and call-outs in the evenings, but it has contributed to more solids going into the ponds. It's probably hard to determine whether that's contributed to the ongoing issues such as odor, but they have. I'm glad to report that they have now decreased the size of the screens on the front end back to a smaller mesh size. They were very small, and they were doing a good job at removing, thousands of pounds of organics before it got to the cells, but could cause weekend problems and call-outs and things of that nature. So they increased the size of that tenfold. It reduced the maintenance expenses and call-out time, but it let everything into the ponds. So they've now cut that back. They went up 10 times in size and then reduced it by 50. So they're probably still around 5 times what they used to be in mesh size. But it is capturing more. When it was at that very large size, all it was capturing were inorganics like wipes and things that were no good to the contracted services that they had from loomers to come and haul away what they used to haul away, thousands of pounds a week or a month. So they were down to a few things in the bottom of a dumpster. They're in the midst of a pre-design study now. I think I can report that because it's been shared with the partners that, they know they're going to have to spend some money in the next 5 or less years at that plant. How much is still to be determined, but they're asking us for where we think we're going to be in the next 5, 10, 15, right up to 25 years from now in growth. That's a hard thing to put a number on, but we know we're set to grow, at least in the next 5 to 10 years, substantially, albeit mostly residential, which again is fairly easy to treat as long as we can keep the high strength users both in check in their strength and their volume. And cutting the volume down and leaving the strength high isn't a solution. I think that was tried at perhaps the chip plant, and all that did was make more of a concentrated slurry on the end of the plant. So it isn't just liquid. It's how strong it is, and as part of the partnership with the regional, we have facilitated that they put in some samplers at some of the key industrial sites out in our business park, so they can get a better real picture of what's coming out of some of the larger industry there, rather than the single grab samples that they grabbed once a week. Now they can get a composite sample. Those are just going online, I think, live now, which will help their designers decide maybe a pre-treatment, in the business park or leaving the business park is an option. I don't know. I'm not sure where you'd ever put it. We don't want it near a well field, obviously, or, most of the park is developed, and as it comes out of the park, you're really essentially on Park Street. So finding a site in Kentville would be very, very tricky in my mind to spot, because the environment would consider that a treatment plant no matter what, whether it discharged or not. It still has requirements from homes or well fields or all the like. So they're trying, I think, to find a balance between a full rebuild at, $50 to $75 million at the Dumina site versus, moderate upgrades there and additions elsewhere in the system, or it doesn't need a plant out in Coldbrook now. I think those are the things that the committee's looking at with their consultants, but we're not being told, everything until they get a little farther along, and when we know, we'll certainly let you know.
Thank you.
Long answer.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. So with our rate increases that we just did, which were substantive, how long can we afford these kinds of increases? So I know it's 8%, but they got it down to 8%. It was originally 15%.
So,
and we know notoriously they tend to go over.
yeah.
I'm just, like and it looks like 2.5, 3, like about 3.9 million over the next 3 to 4 years that they're gonna do in desludging.
The capital cost, you're right, and some of that won't hit the operating immediately, but they're you can see, I think, on the one of the appendices, Councillor, I guess it's the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It does show some of their capital, their 5-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 5-year capital plan, but not really a more than a 1-year operating
Mm-hmm. Right.
plan. So
yeah.
Every year, we were assured that it wouldn't go up as much as it did, and it has, since I've been here in 6 years, we'll say. I think this is the 6th budget I've seen of theirs, so it's ours has stayed pretty consistent at 52%, 51 to 52, but our contribution has doubled. So we've gone up 105% in the last 6 years. So we were paying 700 and some.
Yes.
1920, and now we're paying 1.5 something, so more than 110%. I guess that is.
Yeah, I just wonder how long we can sustain.
So we only did a
2-year.
We did a 2-year rate increase.
Yeah.
Really only a year and a half. We did the end of the current year to do 2 quarters, last quarter and the one we're in now, and then April 1st rates will change again. It'll actually reduce the base charge back to a more reasonable full year base rate, because we were doing kind of catch up in second half of 25-6.
Yeah.
But the consumption rate, of course, is also revenues based on consumption and on water consumption. And if people do conserve water, that's good, but it does reduce our revenue. So it won't reduce our cost to the county immediately. We'll have to pay that that 1.5 million this upcoming fiscal year. So we may not even have enough revenue at the 8% increase.
Yeah.
Based on, if consumption does drop and people may become more mindful of running their tap, or it's not the tap, it's on the consumer end, is it gonna be your green lawns and your topped up pools?
Right.
The other costs from the business park and or even commercial in general is mostly a cost of doing business, and most of them can't reduce their consumption greatly. But we did see a reduction from the quarter we just finished before the calendar year changed from a year ago. Consumption in the third quarter was down when we did put the consumption up. So it did certainly seem to spark a sense to conserve.
Yeah.
That's why there's base rates in consumption. We have, our fixed costs are covered usually by the base and the other ones through consumption. But we'll have to look at another internal review
Yeah.
next fall even. It's hard to say how soon, but it's if we see that halfway through this fiscal that we're not gonna cover the full 1.5,
Yeah.
we'll have to be looking at.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking at something.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Kroll.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Dave, for your report. My question relates to your sentence that talks about historical instances of the regional sewer cost overruns. And if these cost overruns are of an operating nature, you've got to refresh my memory because I'm kind of forget some of this stuff. But how do they collect the overrun? Is the overrun billed to the partners, or do they have funds in reserve that can offset an overage?
Not an operating overage, no. They tried to bolster their operating reserve a few years ago by basically having us contribute to a reserve, and we said no. We want to have our own operating reserve here. So their operating reserve is nil or next to nil. They're obviously keeping and one of the big items this year on the non-operating side of their budget is really I think it's which sheet is it on? I think it's on the back side of the green sheet. Down under non-operating, transfer to depreciation reserves are projected to go up 37%. So they are, which is basically their capital reserve, but they're taking that from 382 under the 5.6 budget to 524. And that's $142,000 more. I suggested that they maybe could reduce that, defer some of that. I mean, as you know, depreciation is calculated based on their assets that they've added, but a lot of what they've added the last few years aren't even that tangible. They're desludging.
Oh.
So they capitalize desludging, and I think they're looking forward to the fact that, well, we need to do a bunch more capital upgrades. Can we really even capitalize desludging? Is it a maintenance cost? It's a huge maintenance cost that they have been, like these last 4 years, they have been capitalizing, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million of desludging. But really, is that a capital asset? It's sort of maintenance because they're just taking sludge away and disposing of it either in a different site or a different province. And sometimes it was trucked to New Brunswick. We're getting deep into it now, I guess, but they don't have an operating reserve. So we have received, usually at the end, usually it's the first quarter of the new fiscal when we get a bill for $55,000 or whatever the magic number is. Right. And this year, I think is their forecast. I thought it was on this sheet. It's in the 75 range. And I'm trying to remember if they're showing 69 budget. I guess the last column of that operating, where they say request for a decision at the top. They're forecasting right now a $70,000. No, that's 6.7 to forecast. Where's their budget? I think they kind of didn't present it on this table, but they were only reporting really the first 2 quarters because they were lacking enough information from NS Power to go beyond quarter 2, so that at the end of quarter 2, which they gave us in end of quarter 3, they were in the $75,000, mostly because of power, and that's the blowers that they've had running, proactively, we'll say, to try to avoid the spring odor that they've experienced or that we've experienced the last 3 or 4 years. They get their experts telling them that they don't need to run as many blowers when the ponds are frozen in the middle of winter because it's ineffective, it's just a waste of energy. So they turn them off and then they see the DO, the dissolved oxygen levels drop. That gets them in panic mode that it's going to start to stink, so they turn them back on again. So, they've increased the number of blowers and they're, of course, horsepower is, energy is a bill. So if they're running or if they're all running, then they're going to, that's why I was a little skeptical when they said that, we'll whittle down the power budget, but is that just lip service in order to try to get it down to 8%? So again, I'm not saying that it won't meet the budget line, but we always need to have our own reserve, I guess, to cover those potential overages every year. And it could be, again, like I said, 75 or more this year.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds bad, but yeah.
Perfect. So we have a recommendation here. The council approve the 2026-2027 regional sewer budget in the amount of $2,942,700, of which town of Kentville's share is $1,537,770, which is 52.2%. And of that, $929,550 is operating expenses and $608,220 is non-operating principal and interest charges on both short and long-term debt from capital improvements. Moved by Councillor Maxwell and Councillor Andrew as a seconder. Any discussion on this? We will open the vote then, if there's none. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Director Bell.
Thank you.
Next item is proposed municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw housekeeping amendments regarding large-scale housing and community development. The recommendation is the council give second reading to the proposed amendments to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw related to the large-scale housing and community development framework as outlined in Appendix A of the staff report. Moved by Councillor Savage and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Kroll. Any discussion on that? We will call for the vote, and voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. The next recommendation regarding rezoning of 160 Main Street. So the recommendation is the council give second reading to the proposed map and text amendments to land use bylaw to permit a change of use within an existing building and to rezone 160 Main Street, PID 552-46573 from the 1 and 2 unit dwelling R2 zone to the medium density residential R3. Moved by Councillor Andrew and Councillor Savage as a seconder. Any discussion on this one? We will open the vote then. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. Move on now to occupational health and safety policy. The recommendation is that council approve the occupational health and safety policy statement. Moved by Deputy Mayor Kroll and Councillor Savage as a seconder. Any discussion on this? There being none, we'll open the vote. Voting is open. Keep hitting it, Rob. And voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. The next recommendation is regarding bylaw 300. It's the second reading, so recommendation that council gives second reading to bylaw 300, idling control bylaw 77 repeal. Moved by Councillor Savage and a seconder, Councillor Maxwell as the seconder. Any discussion on this one? No discussion, so we'll go right to the vote. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. We're on item 4I now, bylaw 301, second reading. This is the recommendation that council give second reading to bylaw 301, repeal of bylaw 99, respecting smoke-free public place. Someone could move that. Deputy Mayor, and a seconder, Councillor Baker. Any discussion on this? No discussion, we will call for the vote. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Next recommendation is regarding council committees and appointments. The recommendation is the council amend its previously approved motion of December 15th, 2025, appointing Councillor Samantha Hamilton to King's Regional Emergency Management Organization and Councillor Kate Savage as alternate by removing the alternate after the word Savage. Moved by Councillor Savage and a seconder, Councillor Baker. Any discussion? None, we'll open the vote. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to a recommendation regarding Valley Ren, that council provide 24 months' notice to Valley Regional Enterprise Network that it wishes to withdraw from the intermunicipal service agreement entered into on May 5th, 2023. Moved by Councillor Andrew and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Kroll. Any discussion? Councillor Savage.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment around that, if I can. Just that I do agree with the work that the REN is doing. I think the coordinated intervention and collaboration is necessary. So that said, Town of Kentville has established our strategic priorities, and Town of Kentville is at the forefront. So I'm hoping that as a result of the sustained regional capacity, because it's important, hoping that maybe the County of Kings will take on some of this residual of those municipal partners who have opted to withdraw. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? We will open the vote then. Voting is open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. Our next item is regarding Valley Waste. The recommendation is the council approve the guarantee resolution for Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management in the amount of $34,717. Deputy Mayor Kroll and a seconder, Councillor Maxwell. Any discussion on this? No lights on, so we'll open the vote. And voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to council reports. They're all in the package, so if there's any questions for any members of council, I would open the floor now if you have anything to ask. Okay. That concludes our part of, oh, you have a question? Yes. Yeah, that's just, I just put it for information purposes as part of my package. But if you have any questions to it, I can, okay. Perfect. That concludes the public portion of our meeting. We do have a confidential matter we must discuss in camera, so I would entertain a motion to go in camera. Deputy Mayor Kroll and Councillor Andrew as a seconder. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.